Good morning, everyone. I'm Sergeant Andy Williams with the Phoenix Police Department Public Affairs Bureau. I want to start out by saying this is preliminary information. Everything is subject to change. I know it's been about 7 hours, but this is an incredibly complex investigation, and we're still just working through those initial details. With that being said, the Phoenix Police Department is investigating two shootings, one of those being an officer-involved shooting that occurred this morning in the area of 54th Avenue and Elwood Street at about 2:15 a.m. The Phoenix Police Department received a 911 call stating that an adult female had been shot. When the first officer arrived on scene, he approached the home to help. He was actually invited inside by the suspect, an adult male. As he approached the doorway, the suspect ambushed him with a gun and shot him several times. That officer was able to get back and get away to safety. Other officers, backup officers, arrived on scene, and they surrounded the home and began calling out the occupants. An adult male came to the door holding a baby, an infant. He placed that infant on the ground in front of the front door and then walked out towards the officers, where they began detaining him. Other officers also moved in to secure that infant. At that time, the suspect opened fire on the officers again, striking 4 officers and also striking 4 other officers, so 8 in total, 4 directly with gunfire and 4 indirectly with ricochet or shrapnel, bullet shrapnel. Those officers were all able to get back to safety, while 2 other officers returned fire at the suspect. Our Special Assignments Unit, also known as the SWAT team, responded and attempted to work towards a tactical resolution of the incident. They attempted negotiations with the adult male suspect and ultimately made entry into the home and determined that he was deceased inside. They also located the adult female victim of the initial shooting call, who was critically injured. At this time, the investigation is ongoing. As you can see behind me, we've got a large number of detectives there processing the scene. You've got pieces of the armor that are used by our SWAT team that are on scene. All that is evidence right now. It's all inside the crime scene. You can expect us to be out here for a significant portion of the day. There will be restrictions in and out of this neighborhood for anyone who lives here. With that being said, are there any questions?
Yeah, the man who brought the baby out, do we think that was part of the ambush? What was his relationship? What was going on with that? And will he face any charges? Is he okay?
He is okay. He did sustain some non-life-threatening injuries. No information to suggest that he was part of the ambush, but it's an ongoing investigation. Likely it will be quite some time before we know answers like that.
Do we know the relationship between the woman, the shooter, and then the man who brought the baby out?
I know the relationship between the suspect that shot the police officers and the woman who was injured inside. They are former boyfriend and girlfriend. They have a child in common. I believe that child that was involved in this incident is their child in common.
So does Phoenix Police think that the baby was brought out as a decoy to then ambush the officers, though?
We don't have any information to suggest that, but it's very early on in the investigation.
After the officer was shot, did he come out and call for backup himself?
So specific details like that, still working through. The officer, after he was shot, he was able to get himself to safety as other officers were arriving on scene.
And the officer was shot inside the residence once he was invited inside?
He was invited inside, but he was shot outside of the residence, close to the front door.
Did he ever enter the home?
Not that I'm aware of.
Can you tell us about the injuries on all 8 officers?
So we've got that one officer, the first officer, who was shot multiple times. We've got, and he was injured the most significantly, non-life-threatening at this time, expected to survive. We've got 4 other officers that were shot, non-life-threatening injuries. We've got another 4 other officers who were struck by ricocheted bullets, bullet shrapnel, minor injuries.
And do they believe the man inside, the suspect, died of a self-inflicted wound?
That will take some time to determine details like that.
Does there appear to be a motivation that started all this?
I can't speculate on motive this early on in the investigation.
Do you have any
What about his
details on-
identity? You guys releasing his identity yet?
Yeah, once all the next of kin notifications have been made, then I'll provide an update later today with identity.
Any
Sergeant,
details
there were
at this point on age?
there were 4 teenagers that were spotted in blankets across the street there from the home. Were they in the home at all, or a part of this at all?
No, not that I'm aware of. The only people that I know that were involved in the incident are the people that I've spoken about.
So you guys responded to shots fired, right? And that's when the lady was shot?
Yeah, the initial 911 call was a caller stating that a woman had been shot.
And then the officers showed up and then they were shot.
Correct.
Can you clarify real quick? I'm
Did you
sorry.
have communication with the suspect inside when he was barricaded?
Yeah, our officers did communicate. Like I stated, they surrounded and did a surround and call out. Also, our special assignments unit communicated with that suspect to attempt to work towards a surrender.
Was he communicating back?
I don't have the specifics on how that communication went, but it was attempted.
Can you clarify real quick? The numbers you gave him made it sound like there were 9 officers injured. Can you clarify the
Correct.
total number injured?
Yep. Just to clarify again, 1 initially shot multiple times, 4 officers shot, and then 4 other additional officers injured by ricochet or shrapnel.
For a total of 9 officers.
For a total of 9 officers
The
injured.
officer who's now in serious condition, who sustained the worst of the injuries, was that the initial responding officer?
Correct. That first arriving officer.
How many are still in the hospital?
I don't have exact numbers on who is still in the hospital and who's been released.
When you say ambush, you said that they invited him in as an ambush style. We had a shooting yesterday as well up north with an officer. Difficult to deal with this situation. You guys are knocking on a door, answering a 911 call, doing your job, and then this happens where the entire neighborhood your officers are down, the entire neighborhood is in danger.
I think it just sort of highlights the inherent dangers of policing. Police officers are always walking into tense, uncertain situations, and we're there to help people. We're there to bring safety, and we're there to sometimes arrest people. And we don't always have, actually I'll say we rarely have all the information, or the information that we do have is often not correct. So like I said, it just highlights the uncertainties and the dangers of this job.
All the officers who were hit, they stayed on scene until this barricade situation was over. I heard Chief Williams describing this as heroism. Could you talk about that?
So the 5 officers who were directly struck with gunfire were transported to the hospital. Some of the officers that were struck by shrapnel or ricochet, they did remain on scene until the conclusion of the barricade, or until they had been relieved. So, they, I guess I'll speak on their behalf. They made a self-assessment and determined that they had been injured, but it wasn't so bad that they couldn't stop, that they needed to stop working, and so they remained there doing their job.
Was one of the officers transported by car? Police car?
I don't have that information.
9 officers shot in one day. Is that the most officers that we've seen, unfortunately, within the department shot in one day?
I'd hate to speculate, but it sounds like I'd be pretty safe to say 9 is going to be the highest number we've ever had injured in one day.
In one incident?
In one incident.
Can you confirm which precincts those officers are from that were injured? Were they all the same?
We had a multi-precinct response out here, so I don't know which precincts they were. Yeah, we will have those details. It's just not right now.
What kind of toll does 9 officers being shot take on the department, especially after you still have one guy still trying to recover from life-threatening injuries?
It's hard. I think it just shows the type of person that decides to do this career. It's not for the money. It's not for the accolades. It's a calling. These people choose this profession because something about it speaks to them, and they want to help their community. They want to serve their community, and they realize that there are serious dangers associated with it. But it is hard. It's hard to see our brothers and sisters get hurt, and I know it's hard for the community to see community members hurt. It's not just, we're not the only ones that were injured here today, and we recognize that.
How old was the infant?
Training do you guys?
Very, very young, small baby. I don't have an
Less
age.
than a year. Okay.
The
What kind of
chief very
training,
upset this morning.
Do you guys do on ambush situations like that?
all I can say is we treat every situation with that potential. You know, we hope for the best, but we prepare for the worst.
Chief, very upset this morning. To kind of touch on what you were saying, everyone's affected by this. And so, how do you continue to move past and do your job?
We don't have a choice. You know, this is what we chose to do for a living. We have a duty to provide a service to the public and to ensure the safety of the public, and that's what we're going to keep doing. We're going to keep coming to work, putting on the uniform and answering calls and serving people.
Good.
Anyone else? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Should we expect further briefings throughout the day?
So probably not another briefing, but what I will do is as I get some of the finer details, which are being hashed out right now, I'll push out another email update.
Does the suspect have a record?